Victims, that is, they're adults now, but they were underage at the time that they were with Mr. Kelly. And so I've not revealed their identities, nor have I revealed the details of what they have shared. But, you know, there's a concern about who that may be. That will be for law enforcement to determine the identity of the children on the tape if they are able to identify.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a problem with this press conference, and we talked about this when it first came out, and I just want to reminisce on some things that this Gloria Allred has said, you know, and I call her Gloria All Lies. So, up under the same breath, you said kids, children, without having the facts. And I'm bothered with that. You know, I'm bothered with that. So I'm just going to break it down. But for her to say, it's up to the, you know, the law to look through this tape to determine if these people are underage. And so from what we know as of today, of 2021, we didn't see those tapes. We didn't see those tapes. And another question, we have this guy that's at the press conference, Mr. Gary. All of a sudden, why now? So you just found the tape all out of the blue. Just like Michael Avenatti. All out the blue, you found the tape. So I want y'all to see where they was getting everything geared up to make sure that they get a conviction. So let's hear some more of Gloria All Lies.
Yes.
Is there any indication about when this tape was produced, if any?
Well, it was at the time that the VHS tapes were in circulation. We do believe that we know the year, but we're just going to say the 1990s.
Now, Gloria All Lies said, we believe we know the year, but let's just say the late 1990s or something to that fact. I had to, you know, I'm trying to remember because she said so many lies. Point out the lies from the truth from Texas Black Diamond. You guys, all I'm trying to do is point out the lies from the truth and give my opinion on the BS and this madness here. So, if I can remember, because I remember the VHS tapes, and the VHS tape, you know, you have the date and everything at the top, the date and the time, all at the top. Why now? Tapes falling from the sky in 2019, all the way back from, you know, 2002 and up into the 90s. So now they just resurfaced. Everybody, tape resurfaced all out the blue from different areas, different states out the blue in 2019. Make it make sense.
Yes.
Ms. Allred, what law enforcement entity did you submit these tapes to? Was it local? Was it an attorney, a state's attorney or attorney general, FBI? Who did those go to?
The United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York.
Do they live in the Eastern District? Do they live on Long Island?
They are residents of Pennsylvania. So
why the Eastern District of New York? So why the Eastern District of New York? So why the Eastern District of New York?
I had to double that one up for you guys and triple it up for you guys. They live in Pennsylvania. And the press is not dumb either. Just pay attention to the questions from the press. And, you know, one of the journalists like, why New York? Why New York? And that's the question that we all ask. Why New York? Why New York? And pay attention to this old slap thing. Look at her facial expression, smiling like the Grinch. Just pay attention to her face.
I think that was appropriate. That's why.
You can't allow them to elaborate?
No.
No.
But it's my opinion that was the appropriate jurisdictional law enforcement entity which should receive them.
So when Gloria All Lies was asked that question, you see the smile on her face? Like the Grinch that stole Christmas. And she had the biggest, and there's some sneak stuff right there. When you see people do that, they on some sneak stuff. That's why I want to bring that to your attention, that part right there. That part.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the timeline, roughly when the tapes were discovered, until they contacted your office, until today, and I guess when they were turned over to the authorities. And
Well, with all of that, I will say within recent weeks.
You see, Gloria, all lives pause, you guys. And so just think about it. She was thinking, she was like, dang it, like, how should I tell him this? Because if I said we've been found to tape, they'd be like, okay, why now now you release it? So within weeks after, now after the docuseries of lies, Surviving Lies, so Mr. Gary Dennis decided to go down into his basement now. I wanted to look at a basketball game, an old Jordan basketball game. And lo and behold, after the Surviving Lies, look what I found. A VHS tape of someone claiming that this is Robert and an underage girl. And I call foolery on this. And you guys, it's just, I'm looking at it, and so for the people that actually, just looking at the media, looking at the press, looking at the news, and this is exactly what they are looking at, you guys. Press conference of people like Gloria All Lies, spreading rumors and lies, and not giving giving facts, and trying to set up an indictment in New York City. And so you should ask yourself this question: how is this lady allowed to sit here at a press conference? It's not confirmed of who's on this tape. If it's a young lady, whom they don't know. But you get on a platform and you speak against Robert Sylvester Kelly as if you know all facts, and that's one thing that needs to shut down. And you see, she had to think. She really had to think about that. So when you have to think, you don't have to think about the truth. And like I told you guys before, you do not have to rehearse the truth. Okay? You don't have to rehearse the truth. Because if you pay attention to everybody that sat at a press conference with Gloria All Lies, they're reading off a paper. And if you know your truth, you don't need no rehearsal. You don't need no paper. You're going to speak your truth.
All of this took place.
They were found in recent weeks.
Well, yeah, recently.
were they found before or after the documentary was released?
All of this took place.
They were found in recent weeks.
Well, yeah, recently.
Were they found before or after the documentary was released?
All of this took place.
They were found in recent weeks.
Well, yeah, recently.
Were they found before or after the documentary was released?
After.
Is there any way to tell how many girls are in, how many different girls or what young women are in the video? And also, does Mr. Dennis have, was he a former employee? Has he ever met R. Kelly? Does he know people that knows him? I mean, how
So
does
that's
it
about
cost?
3 questions.
Okay.
So let's start with your first.
Okay,
Just
great.
break that down, please.
Okay. How many, can you tell by the video how many women, young girls are in the
More than one.
10?
We're not going to disclose the number, but more than one.
Does Mr. Dennis have any ties to Mr. Kelly? Did he have
Mr. Dennis has never met Mr. Kelly, has never had any communication with Mr. Kelly, and has never attended an R. Kelly concert.
but must friends in common?
I don't know whether anyone he knows knew Mr. Kelly. He doesn't know Mr. Kelly. Sally doesn't know Mr. Kelly. There's been no communication with Mr. Kelly by Mr. Dennis or by his wife Sally.
Now listen to this journalist here, because I'm feeling you, sister, because she's reading the BS as well. And, we're wondering, okay, you don't know him, no affiliation with him, all the way over here on the other side of the earth, and you just so happen to have some tapes. And they tried to say a box of tapes. So I want y'all to listen to the journalist and then listen to Gloria All Lies and with her lies, okay?
So a box of tapes, one saying R. Kelly ends up in his home,
That's correct.
and we don't know how that would have happened.
We know what we shared, and that's what we know. That's all we know.
This was in the basement?
It was in his home and in a box. I can't say exactly where.
Now everyone has amnesia, okay? So nobody knows exactly where it was located in the home of these people, of Mr. Greg Dennis, So we heard the den, the basement, and so now we don't know. And see, these people, they're throwing these questions at them like, wait a minute, like, make it make sense to us, because all of a sudden, if some tapes that was been sitting around in his home for over, 20, 30 years, and you mean to tell me he just stumbled on these tapes after the surviving lies?
In his home it was located, but he has shared all that information with law enforcement. He's answered all of their questions. And Sally has also answered all of their questions and is happy to do so. Who's not yet had an opportunity to ask the question?
How do you know that the girls were underage, and was there any other man than R. Kelly, or who you suspect you R. Kelly on the tape?
Yes.
How do you know that the girls were underage, and was there any other man than R. Kelly, or who you suspect you R. Kelly on the tape?
Listen to her, you guys. The journalist they were on point, and this is what I love about the reporters. They was like, okay, how do you know? And I want y'all to listen to her answer, okay? And I'm gonna come back. I'm coming back.
They assume that the girls were underage because they were not fully developed.
Wait a minute, you guys. Give me a second to get some peroxide and get a Q-tip and clean out my ear and let me hear her again to make sure I hear what she is saying here. Okay? Just give me a minute. Let me hear it again.
They assume that the girls were underage because they were not fully developed.
They assumed. They no facts. They just assumed that these females were underage because they wasn't fully developed. Are we going by the breast sizes, the booty sizes, the kitty cat sizes? Because in that case, I want to know where my cha-cha's at. I have kindergarten cha-chas. My daughter was 15 and had breasts of a grown woman. Okay, so now we're determining a person's age because of the development of their bodies. Have you ever heard of process? Okay, let me tell you something. That don't fly right with me. That does not fly right with me, you guys. For this lady to say they assumed. Now, this is what I'm talking about. We are going on some alleged stuff that Robert was acquitted of back in 2008. A 2001 indictment, okay? 2001. So, let's go back. That's 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we are going by that to assume, okay, these videos showing that undeveloped women with small breasts and thin vaginas and flat rumps are underage. Because if we're going by that, I take it all day long. I'm young then, because I don't have the booty, I don't have the breast. And that is full BS to me. To allow this woman, Gloria All Lies, to get on here with this Greg Dennis and say that these are underage females. You gotta be kidding me. You got...
And was he the only man on the tape? Or who you suspect?
He was the only man on the, meaning R. Kelly,
Yes.
was the only man seen on the tape.
Question.
Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Question, like what point of view is it, like the camera set off to the side, and who's actually filming? If it's R. Kelly filming, you would see him, like how does it,
Who
what
was
point of view
filming, is that your
it?
question?
Yeah, or what is it?
Well,
what's the, like, point of view?
Mr. Dennis said that it appeared to him that Mr. Kelly was controlling the camera.
Do we know how long the tape is and any indication?
He does know how long the tape is, but he's not going to disclose that at this time.
Are there any like indicators maybe he said on camera that indicates that he is R. Kelly? Like, you know, do you want a job in the music industry, or does he say anything that sort of like indicates that it's him?
We don't want to describe the detail on the tape, but they have both viewed it, and it is their conclusion that this is R. Kelly. It appears to them that he is R. Kelly
Have you viewed the tape?
on the tape.
Have you viewed the tape?
I don't have any comment on
Did Mr.
Ms.
Dennis
Oliver, did
recognize
Mr.
him?
Dennis-
that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned that it appeared R. Kelly was controlling the camera, but it also appeared that he was in the video. So
Meaning participating in the sexual abuse.
is his face visible in the video?
Their conclusion is that this is Mr. Kelly.
Do the women know?
If his face had not been visible, they would not have been able to reach that conclusion.
Ms. Oliver, did Mr. Dennis recognize any of the young girls that were in the video?
No.
And is there any indication where it was shot? The video?
I mean, there is no indication of the city and state where it was shot.
Was it a bedroom or did it?
No. I'm sorry, but we're not able to discuss in which room this tape was made.
Did the women know they were being filmed?
I don't have any comment on that. And these were not women, these were girls.
Oh, girls.
Underage girls. And
It appears that Robert is in the tape. It appears that he's operating the tape. And then we have Gloria All Eyes is speaking on what Dennis is saying here, that it's Robert. The journalist asked her, have she seen it? And she's trying to think about it and contemplate and saying she's not going to comment on that. And so they was asking her the question, like, was it in a bedroom? Where was it? And where was it located? And she didn't want to speak on that because, quite frankly, she wants it to be somewhere in New York. She's trying to place Robert in New York. And so, as of today, we see why they were so desperate to try to get him an indictment in New York City. Like I said, New York has all these different kind of rules and set in place and, you know, and things like that, and trying to get a RICOs and stuff going because they was trying to make sure they received a conviction. And like I said, Robert has been, rights has been violated. And so you, under the same breath, you said that they assumed that it was minors, underage. And then one journalist said woman, and you correct her and said, no, girls. And then you tried to say this tape here was a violation of, you know, taking advantage of someone. And apparently it was a consensual sexual entanglement. You never said that someone was beaten or threatened or forced to have sex on that tape. And to allow Gloria All Eyes to say this, it's not right. It's a big violation on Robert here. And if you don't see that, something is wrong, and we need to take care of this because it can be you, like we have always said, Robert today, and it might be you tomorrow.
I really couldn't comment on whether they knew they were being recorded, didn't know they were being recorded. In a way, it doesn't matter because the child cannot legally consent to being sexually abused and cannot legally consent to be sexually abused and recorded while she is being sexually abused.
How did Mr. Kelly come to know these girls?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
How did he come to know these girls?
We have no comment on how he came to know these girls. That would be for law enforcement to state if, as, and when they think it's appropriate to state that.
At this point, is there any indication that additional charges will be brought as a result of this tape from law enforcement?
That will be for the prosecutors to decide if, as, and when any additional charges would be filed against Mr. Kelly, and if so, where? And if so, where? This is the United States Attorney's Office. This is a federal criminal investigation. We know there is a pending criminal case in which Mr. Kelly has been charged in Chicago and Cook County by Cook County prosecutors. Whatever happens to that case, whether he is ultimately convicted or acquitted, the United States Attorney's Office could, either way, still file charges against him if, as, and when they believe it is appropriate to do so.
So there's an ongoing federal investigation in addition to the Cook County investigation.
It appears to me that there is an open investigation by the United States Attorney's Office in the Eastern District.
Why does it appear that way?
I can't comment on that. However, in my last news conference here in New York, I did state that my clients in that case, who alleged they were 16 and 15 years old, that's Latrice and Rochelle, they spoke to law enforcement, namely the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York.
Has your office, or to your knowledge, have the authorities made any contact regarding this with Kelly's attorneys?
You would have to ask Mr. Kelly's attorneys.
But your office has not reached out about
Reached out to him.
his attorneys regarding.
I see no need to reach out to Mr. Kelly's attorney regarding this VHS tape.
I know you said this all occurred within the last few weeks. When did you hand the tape over to authorities?
Recently.
Was anything else out of the ordinary found in Mr. Dennis's VHS collection?
To his knowledge at this time, he believes that this may be the only tape that he has had possession of in reference to Mr. Kelly. But we can't be 100% sure. Here's what we can be 100% sure of. If there is anything else in that box that depicts Mr. Kelly, law enforcement will be provided with it immediately. And they will have immediate access to everything in that box so they can ascertain what, if anything, is present in that box. He is happy to assist in any and every way that they deem appropriate.
So now Gloria All Eyes is saying if there's anything else in the box that they will send it over to the attorneys. Okay, send the whole damn box. So you mean to tell me that he didn't go through the rest of the boxes? Because everything is plotted here. So we don't really know. So we got these VHS tapes falling out the sky. So this lady, she's speaking on the box, and if we come across any more. So if this guy found this tape, you would think the feds and anyone else that's in the law department will go in and have them to turn in, these tapes. Let's look over these tapes and let's make sure there's nothing else here. Because, hell, I'm trying to figure out why you got the tapes anyway. Did you claim there's some underage, 20 years ago tapes, okay? It's very confusing to me on how they allow an attorney to sit here and speak without no facts, no evidence. It's a ongoing investigation, and you're allowed to speak to the media, speak to the public, paint the narrative, persuade potential jurors, as what happened to Robert in this New York trial. And so, once again, will he have a fair trial in Chicago? Will he have a fair trial in Chicago? Let's hope that these potential jurors see the foolery and say that this man did not have a fair trial. So we're gonna find him not guilty. We don't like how America has done this, because every human being in the United States, as it says in the Constitution, has a right to a fair trial. And he did not have a fair trial. No form of fashion, especially when you have Lifetime of Lies, you have these women on bashing tours, you have the mammy, boo-hooing, and just all these allegations all over the place.
Yes.
You said that you believe there's additional tapes out there. What would lead you to believe? Are there other tapes of this particular incident?
The basis for my belief is that there have been news reports over the years that there were tapes depicting Mr. Kelly in sexually abusive acts with children that were being sold on street corners in Chicago. Bootleg tapes. I don't know whether that's true. I'm just stating what I have seen in news reports that may or may not be true. But that's the basis for my belief that it is possible.
So now Gloria All Lies, she claims she didn't know anything about the alleged tape indictment back in 2002. Tapes were out. They were out for sale. So then these charges came up. It started from Jim Darrigaddis. Jim Darrigaddis claimed that he sent the tapes over to the law enforcement. So Sparkle, he reached out to Sparkle. Asked Sparkle, was that her niece? So my thing is, this greasy white man with all these tattoos on his ass. How you know Sparkle? How you know Sparkle? How you know her niece? And those are some key questions there. How do you know to find Sparkle? So you get this tape, and then you look at it. Then you have someone else to look at it. Then you guys, a lot of people looked at this tape, And so then we had some tapes put out there on display. And they said that lady that was on there was Rashonda Landfair. Rashonda Landfair has always been a chubby-faced lady from youth on up to now, chubby cheeks. And this lady had, her bone structures were different, okay? And so now we have Gloria All Lies taking it all the way back 20 years ago to assume that, okay, this is a underage female that's on the tape without having someone to speak out to say that's me on the tape, speaking to investigators, saying that is me. That is me on there, and this is my birth certificate. This is the year. So also, if there's you're saying you don't recall the dates on those tapes, and you don't see dates on that tape, how can you sit there and say that that's an underage girl with no date on that tape. So now we know that any and everybody can come forward and say anything and they will believe these people. And shame on the black man sitting over there looking like a fool. That's our people for you. I'll put it like that. Let's help get the white woman rich, okay? Because you ain't getting nothing but a 1/3 of it. Okay, brother?
Also, I have been contacted by others in reference to the possession of tapes. I'm not at liberty to disclose who contacted me, what they have, what's on the tapes. Anyone who contacts me has a right to a confidential conversation. I will not disclose what they told me. Whether they turn over such tapes if they exist or don't turn them over, I would never disclose that without their permission or anything about them. Yes?
Just considering this is such a bombshell claim, is there any indication, and we're going to talk about, did he say something in the video? Did he appear in the video? Can you give us any kind of, evidence that you are sure that it's R. Kelly in the video? Anything? I know you're...
I will just say, and I can't give you the reason, I have a basis for believing that it appears that it is Mr. Kelly on the video. Can I say that to 100% certainty? No. Can I say that to 100% certainty? No.
So you're not certain. So you have the right to get up there and speak on someone, and you're not 100% certain of these allegations. So do you have a right to be up there parading around the potential jurors, parading around the media to put allegations out there that you're not 100% sure of? As Michael Avenatti said, 90% lies and 10% truth. Okay.
Do I have a basis for believing it? Yes. That's all I can say.
Ms. Allred, in terms of you've represented many sex abuse survivors.
Yes.
What concerns do you have for these young girls that appear in this video that they may be outed against their will because of this?
Well, they're not going to be outed by us because no member of the public will see this tape, nor has any member of the public seen this tape that was in the possession of Gary and Sally. We are not providing this to any member of the press, nor to any other person, because the only people who should see this tape are law enforcement. And that's about clear as I can make it. And then it'll be for the prosecutor to decide if, as and when charges are filed, if it should be shown in a court of law or not. But I do not have any knowledge as to whether additional charges will be filed. If so, where, when, that is not for me to know. I don't ask that question. It's not appropriate to know. That would be for prosecutors to decide.
And could Mr. Dennis, what's his occupation?
He works in a nursing home. He assists there. And they're very fortunate to have him because they're a very caring person. Yes.
Has there been any concerns with the Dennis's speaking as far as safety or anything else?
They're very courageous, and they decided that they wanted to speak out because protection of children is paramount to them, and they don't want these tapes to be in circulation, and they felt they needed to ask the public, please do not sell them, do not give them away, do not distribute them if you have them, do not tamper with them, do not discard them, do the right thing in the right way, take the right steps so that law enforcement can have them. And that's why they're doing it. they've thought about the risks to them and the fact that not everyone will agree to the fact that tape should be turned over to law enforcement, but I think they're clear that this was the right thing to do, and they're courageous, and they were going to do it. And they did. Are there any other questions? Yes?
Why did Mr. Dennis feel the need to speak out about it? Why not just turn over the tapes quietly?
Yeah. He felt the need to speak out about it because he wants the message to be sent to any other person or persons who may have access to or possession of similar tapes, that they need to do the right thing ASAP and turn it over to law enforcement. And we are concerned, all of us, that not all such tapes are in the possession of law enforcement and yet should be. There may be people out there profiting from these tapes, and if you're profiting from the possession of such tapes, then you are profiting from the sexual abuse of children. And that is wrong, and we want people to not encourage the exploitation and the abuse of children in child pornography. We want everyone to step up and say, I'm going to do the right thing to protect children. I'm going to turn over these tapes. However it came into your possession, doesn't matter. We just need to have access to the tapes so that law enforcement can have it. That's why he did this today.
So you find a tape and you 20-year tape, and you just decide to be this Mr. Good guy. Tape been sitting there collecting dust. You decide to go look for a movie, and all of a sudden, woe and behold, a sex tape of Robert Kelly just pops up out of nowhere, just magically pop up after a lifetime of life. And you want to be courageous to just go ahead and just, here you go. I got a tape, you know, and I just want to do the right thing. And, you know, I want to make sure everybody's good and nobody else is being harmed. And that tape been sitting there all this time, like 20 years now. 20 years. You didn't want to watch a movie or nothing back then. Like right around the time, you know, people was watching VHS tapes. It just mysteriously, it just popped up in a box. And I just love the way these journalists were popping them questions out on their tail. It's important because when you have people like that, they would do desperate things for money, you know. And so that was a good question there. I appreciate y'all journalists. So we're going to remind these people this stuff that's going on out here and the violations of Robert Sylvester Kelly. And he's Robert Sylvester Kelly Sr. to us because we are fighting for the human Robert Sylvester Kelly, you guys. So we're trying to put this information out there and let you guys see it for yourself, hear it for yourself, along with my opinions and breakdowns of this because, hey, pointing the lies out from the truth.
Yes.
Ms. Albert, were you given any kind of guarantee that no charges will be brought against the Dennises in terms of possession of this?
I have no concern about that whatsoever. Clearly, they're doing the right thing in the right way, for the right reason, at the right time.
Doing the right thing at the right reason, at the right time. And that's to fit the narrative, to paint the minds and toxic the minds of the public. And so this is the right time, right? Not 20 years ago, not 15, not 10 years ago, but the right time after the lifetime of lives. And you can see them just like getting up and all smiles. All smiles. Come on, baby, get on there, because see, now we got it. We got it, so you ain't got to worry no more. Glory, our eyes gonna make sure that you get a fresh wave nouveau put on your head, and you ain't got to worry about wearing them plaits on your head like that and that bang no more. So let's not forget that Daryl Johnson showed his face to the public, as well as Michael Avenatti, to gain the trust of their victims as they try to con them out of money. Okay? Don't forget that, you guys.
Morning. Any questions? What just happened? Well, so we filed a motion asking to preserve all communications with any witness, police, prosecutor, attorneys, and so forth. And then we learned something that I knew that Michael Avenatti was involved with some of the people in this case, but I think what the state said is he represents witnesses in each of the cases, which is just crazy to me.
I thought she said that you said he represents witnesses.
No, we didn't say that. No, she said.
She said you said.
No, she said that he represents people in each of the cases. That's what she said. We don't know. We know in two of the cases he represents people. We know that he was representing people before the grand jury. We know that he's not a licensed lawyer in Illinois, so that's the unauthorized practice of law. We know what he says about what he does. We know how he operates. And we know that what happened in this case was a result of his pressure and nothing else.
How do you know that?
Because I've seen the evidence so far. And they just don't do this. They don't bring back cases that were rejected 15 years ago. They don't indict cases without talking to witnesses and doing a thorough investigation, and that's what happened in this case. A rush to judgment, a rush to prosecute because of pressure, all polluted by Michael Avenatti.
Why wait until Avenatti is under scrutiny for an extortion case and Kim Fox is now under fire? Why wait? If you felt like they were conspiring together, why would you wait all this time?
I said the first night when I was at the police station that this was wrong, that they had rushed to judgment, that they had succumbed to pressure. That's what I said the first night before we'd been to court and we'd seen anything. Then we started to get the evidence. We got a little bit of the evidence, and we can see that there's all sorts of problems. We didn't wait. We didn't rush. Maybe if he didn't have these problems right away, we would have waited longer till we had more of the evidence. Maybe not. But we know that he's got these problems. When you get in bed with fleas, this is what happens.
So, Steve, are you saying that Kim Fox... If I'm at home and I'm listening to you talk about this, and obviously everybody's kind of focused on R. Kelly, tell me what you think is wrong about this case and how these charges were pulled.
What's wrong with this case is that there is no case. There's no new tape. Avenatti's full of it when he said there was a new tape. There are old cases that were rejected, and understand we're limited what we can say about the evidence by our rules here in Illinois, rules that he didn't feel constrained by because he's not a lawyer here in Illinois. But I've never heard of, in 33 years of doing this, I've never seen a case where it's rejected after a full investigation and then 15 plus years later without any reinvestigation, just because the sort of public perception has turned that it's charged. There is a case involving a young lady who wrote a book where she said, I lied to R. Kelly about how old I was. I came to his trial every day. You had to be 18 to get into that trial. She went with her mother. That, if you see somebody with their mother and they're telling you they're 19 years old, mom doesn't say that's wrong. And there's problems with all of the cases. All the cases, they shouldn't have been brought. There's all this pressure. There was a so-called documentary which was really just a hatchet job that was done. And then they indicted these cases. And the problem is there was this call from the prosecutor. People call, let us know what happened. And so far, from what I can tell, the only people who called all of a sudden ended up with Michael Avenatti is their lawyer.
So, Steve, are you saying that Michael Avenatti pressured Kim Fox to bring these cases?
Absolutely.
When you say there's no new tape, can you talk about the motion today and why you want them to preserve all of these emails and texts and social media?
Sure. We've already seen that State's Attorney Fox has conversations with people about pending cases, pending investigations. I want to know what conversations she had with Avenatti about this case, about these facts, and what occurred. I think it's totally appropriate.
Kim Fox fed him clients?
I'm alleging that it looks like she may have, yes.
When you say there's no new tape, are you saying that the tape at the center of one of those indictments is the same one at the center of the child pornography trial?
I believe that is the exact same tape, yes.
What leads you to believe that?
What I know?
Have you seen the tape yet? I thought they weren't going to let you see it.
Yeah.
What I know, look, think of me like a good reporter like you, Megan. I have my sources. You have your sources. I'm basing it on what my sources are telling me.
Can you comment on your concerns about the Justice Smollett situation and how you think that potentially could impact R. Kelly's trial
I don't think that the Jussie Smollett situation is going to impact R. Kelly's trial. I think what it shows us is how this office operates. Or at least how some, I don't want to say, this office is full of great prosecutors, 99% of them. I think what we're talking about is the upper reaches.
Today you withdrew your motion to allow R. Kelly to travel. Explain the logic behind it.
Well, because we don't have the information. We don't have another court date scheduled. If he needs to travel for concerts, that's going to be handled by Mr. Anton, and we'll let him deal with it.
What are the chances he'll actually travel to Divine?
I have no idea. I think the chances of him traveling in a couple of weeks are probably zero at this point.
Avenatti has responded to what you're saying, and he tweeted out that he feels like R. Kelly's attorney is now trying to distract attention away from the clear guilt of his client by raising bogus arguments about he and Kim Fox. The evidence is the evidence. Multiple witness tapes plus DNA. What's your response to that?
So the DNA that I've seen thus far is not new DNA tests. It's the same DNA information they had when they rejected these charges years ago. And I don't need to respond to Mr. Avenatti. Mr. Avenatti thinks that he is the truth. He is the oracle of truth. I think the federal prosecutors disagree in New York. He's entitled to presumption of innocence like anywhere else, but they disagree. The tapes don't bear that out. The prosecutors in California disagree. When everything somebody touches is like this, what happened here is they got in bed with Avenatti, and Avenatti is toxic. Everything he touches seems to blow up, and that's what's going to happen here.
You said that the state's attorney, you wanted to find out if she was bullied or manipulated. How do you think she was being bullied or manipulated by Michael Avenatti?
Well, we'll see what the stuff shows. But I think it's obvious when he was coming in here, he was having press conferences, he was spending hours and hours meeting at the state's attorney's office, that some kind of influence was going on. He was having very public outcries to do something. You have to do something. I also have a problem with the fact that he was representing witnesses before the grand jury, and he is not licensed to practice in Illinois. That is the unauthorized practice of law, and it's improper. I'm sure he'll say otherwise. I suggest people take a look at the law. Okay? Anything else?
How's R. Kelly doing?
I think he has a cold or the flu. So, but I don't live with him. That's why he's not here. He wasn't feeling well. All right? Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sure that Mr. Kelly is going to do whatever he needs to do to maintain his own sanity under the circumstances.
Does he regret the money on camera with Gail?
I have not talked to him about that interview with Gayle King. Obviously, he went into custody, I think, the same day that the interview first aired. I wasn't there when he was doing the interview, but I don't think he regrets.
You weren't there?
Do you think it was
I'm
a
sorry.
mistake to do an interview as his attorney?
6 hours a day. I have a key swab. I can walk into his apartment when I get ready. I take his phone at will. I go through his phone. I'm with him. Half the time, he's not even there. He's playing basketball or at the cigar lounge, things that he likes to do to calm his mind. Those young ladies come freely. I'm there.
New York prosecutors say an alleged crisis manager of R. Kelly bribed a Cook County, Illinois, clerk with $2,500 to obtain inside information on the rapper's legal situation after the Lifetime documentary Surviving R. Kelly came out. The finding was revealed in court documents Friday, in which prosecutors asked to bring up multiple uncharged crimes at trial next month to help establish a motive for his alleged behavior. In the filing, federal prosecutors provided different documentation to support their claims, including an audio recording reportedly obtained from R. Kelly's phone between him and the alleged crisis manager. In it, the crisis manager said he knew people who could tip them off on Kelly's charges if he could figure out what you could do for them. Kelly allegedly responded, "What you do, man, is write something on a piece of paper and give me what I should tip the bailiff. What I should tip the valet." The crisis manager is said to have later admitted to paying the clerk $2,500 and supplying them with a burner phone to inform them of any potential charges.
He was already mad at me because he claims that somebody told him, or he got his hands on something that basically, because he claims that he got some type of audio, and he said that I was basically I told Rob the stuff that he was saying when he sent, what's the fake crisis manager's name? Daryl Johnson. He was like, you told him about Daryl Johnson, you told him about Mason, because, he did have people infiltrate the camp. He was dealing with people around. And like I said, I've never seen Rob do shit.
listening. Okay, listen. You know that I talked to Angelo now. You got to get rid of Mason, and you have to get rid of this publicist. Because they are working with Avenatti. This was a whole, like, this Gail King thing. They knew about this from, like, weeks ago. Like, they've been planning this. I know you don't probably want to listen to me. But please, you cannot let him do this interview on Monday. Like, all of this stuff is a plan to just, like, rip you apart and make shit worse.
Cannot let who do an interview?
This Daryl Johnson guy. The guy who's supposed to be, like, the publicist or whatever.
Rip me apart how?
Get you away?
Rip me apart how?
Like, it's just all staged. Like, I don't know.
No. Just be specific. Be specific. Rip me apart how?
I don't know the how.
Okay, I want you to find out. I want you to find out how and let me know.
Okay.
Let me know.
He was saying that when he was sending people in to infiltrate Rob's camp, he was saying that when he was sending people in to infiltrate Rob's camp, he was saying that when he was sending people in to infiltrate Rob's camp, that I told him the things that he was telling me. So he was already mad at me from, like, days before that. He just kind of went off the handle saying that I told Rob everything that he told me because he knows that his hands are dirty. He's done a lot of foul shit that he shouldn't have been doing. And I think at this point, with authorities being involved in all of this stuff, he just wants to keep everything quiet that he's done. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if he'll get into it. I don't know what the deal is, but I know it's not right.
Now, if I was a judge, me personally, and I thought a guy was a known pedophile over the last 30 years, why is probation even on the table? If this guy is a known pedophile, if he's holding these people hostage, why haven't the doors be kicked in?
Well, I mean, I think that's a legal process. I don't think that speaks to guilt or innocence.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if a judge over these years thought that this is what it was, you got enough to indict, just have zero bond.
Yeah.
Well, if it was me, I wouldn't want to work with him. You don't kick a dog down when he's down. So if Mr. Kelly is found innocent, y'all coming at me as if I have your daughter. I don't work for Mr. Kelly. I work for Mr. Stephen Greenberg. Y'all coming at me as if I have your daughter. I don't work for Mr. Kelly. I work for Mr. Stephen Greenberg. I have a 21-year-old. Oh, wow. Listen to me. I have a 21-year-old. I would drive that truck in that hotel if my daughter's in there. That's what I would do. I would drive that truck and I'd get her if it's my daughter.
R. Kelly's former crisis manager, Daryl Johnson, yesterday on a third-degree aggregate theft charge. He's accused of defrauding two people out of tens of thousands of dollars. But now more people are coming forward with new claims, including a family who says they were scammed out of millions. Our Sion Rhodes is live downtown now where those accusers met with prosecutors today. Sion?
And Chris, Daryl Johnson's scheduled first court appearance today was waived under Harris County Court COVID protocol, so he wasn't here. But several people who claimed they were scammed by him did show up. A group of strangers turned allies, united in their efforts to get justice.
He's a con artist.
He manipulates the situation by preying on your vulnerability.
Cola Lewis is one of two people who filed charges against former R. Kelly crisis manager Daryl Johnson for defrauding them out of $50,000 in schemes involving crisis management and real estate.
Services that were then never rendered and the money was never returned to the victims.
Today, more alleged victims met with Harris County prosecutors, hoping to have their cases investigated.
He's taken over $2 million from my dad.
Mindy Howard says Johnson is her 77-year-old father's neighbor.
For the past 4 or 5 years, he's just kind of worked his way into my father's trust. It's devastating. I mean, it's destroying our family to see everything that he's worked for being stolen out from under him with all of these lies.
Thanksgiving's Christmas together all the time.
Yahtzee Luchin has known Johnson for more than 20 years. His cousin is Johnson's wife.
Based on that family connection, it made it easy for me to be a believer in what he presented to me.
Luchin says he invested $60 grand in a real estate flip with Johnson that never materialized.
No deal, no money. I'm not worried about the money. I know I'm not going to get the money back. This needs to come to a stop and needs to be stopped now before there are other victims.
Now, Johnson is required to appear in court on Monday for a hearing on his bond conditions. The prosecutor telling me she plans to ask the judge that Johnson surrender his passport, that she will place travel restrictions upon him, and also that he prohibited from acting as a financial manager of any kind, accepting, soliciting money, and using it for any sort of real estate or other investments. Now, the Harris County DA's office says their investigation here is ongoing, along with a separate investigation from the HPD White Collar Task Force. Both agencies say they'd like to hear from any other possible victims who could be Be out there.
Daniel's attorney, he joins us on the phone. All right, Michael, you took to Twitter and you're talking about Cohen and his attorney, Lanny Davis, saying, quote, Mr. Davis, Lanny Davis, Mr. Davis is a good lawyer, but his client, Mr. Cohen, is not innocent, nor is he a victim. He is a co-conspirator, dishonest thug who continues to refuse to come clean and do the right thing. They are playing you and aiming for a pardon. Where is the rest of the evidence and tapes? Now, Davis says Cohen is not seeking a pardon, and you don't buy that. So, Michael, I got to walk through a few things. A, give you credit, because you said there's not one tape, there's tapes. You were right. But a week ago, didn't you go out to dinner with Michael Cohen? They had said you ran into him in a restaurant. And I have to tell you, we got 14,000 restaurants in New York City, so I personally don't buy that you just ran into one another. And I think you said that you could actually see yourself working with Cohen at some point. So let's get through the noise and tell us what's really going on here.
Well, Stephanie, I happened to just by happenstance run into Michael Cohen at Scalinatella at 61st and 3rd. I decided at the last minute to go to that restaurant. I was with a friend of mine, and I walked into the restaurant, and I was seated. And my friend said to me, "You're not going to believe who's here." And I looked up, and Mike. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Continue. So you ran into Michael Cohen.
No, I ran into Michael Cohen by happenstance. And, you know, Stephanie, but that was not the first communication that I'd had relating to us potentially sitting down with Michael Cohen and trying to resolve things. As I said on CNN last night, this has been in the works for a number of weeks, but it was contingent on Michael Cohen coming 100% clean and disclosing what he knew about the president and the president's culpability as it relates to potential criminal conduct. And on Sunday, we had a meeting actually set up on Monday, meeting 2 days ago, 4 p.m. in New York, and I canceled that meeting on Sunday because it became clear to me after speaking with Lanny Davis that morning that Michael was not prepared to do the right thing and wanted to basically have it both ways, and we're not going to participate in something like that. So my issue is as follows. Our issue is as follows. There's a number of other tapes. There's a lot of additional damaging information, and Michael Cohen doesn't want to provide that information to the American public and doesn't want to come clean. He is playing, and Lanny Davis is playing the American public right now, and we're not going to participate in that, and we're going to continue to hammer away at this guy until he does the right thing.
You think they're putting forth a front where they're saying, I'm trying to do the right thing, I'm releasing this tape to show that I'm a good guy, and that's not actually the truth? What do you mean they're playing us?
No, that's exactly what they're doing, Stephanie. Because again, this is one of many tapes. This is not even the tip of the iceberg. And look, if Lanny Davis is to be believed, his comments this morning that Michael Cohen is not seeking a pardon, Michael Cohen should issue a written statement this morning stating that he will not accept a pardon from Donald Trump, regardless of the circumstances.
Okay, you know he's not going to do that. No one would do that.
Why not? Why not?
Anyone who's facing prison time is not going to sign a document that says, I will not accept a pardon. There's no way he's going to. Would you do that? I wouldn't.
Stephanie, I absolutely would do that if I went on national television or I had my attorney go on national television and say that he was not seeking a pardon. I don't get it. If that's the truth, he should have no problem issuing that statement. And if he refuses to issue that statement, that should tell you something, namely that he's trying to have it both ways, which is exactly what they're doing right now. There's nothing stopping Michael Cohen and Lanny Davis from releasing the balance of the tapes. There's over a dozen. There's nothing stopping them from coming clean and doing the right thing. There just isn't.
First of all, there's been a number of misstatements and outright falsehoods made by Mr. Steve Greenberg. It appears to be amateur hour here in Cook County trial. As I referenced yesterday, that tape, which we provided earlier this month, criminal defense lawyer and even many non-lawyers understand that concept. Mr. Greenberg's client is in a fight for his life. Mr. Greenberg needs to pull his head out of his ass and start defending his client as opposed to making personal attacks on me and the victims in this case. If he continues to antagonize me and the victims in this case, Mr. Kelly is even in more trouble. I've been talking about the tape for some time. I don't traffic in nonsense and innuendo. If I say something, you can take it to the bank. And I've been talking about this tape for some time. It clearly exists. We turned it over, and it depicts exactly what I said it depicted yesterday. But I will say this. If Mr. Kelly and his enablers and his handlers engage in the obstruction of justice and witness tampering that they did back in 2008, and if we catch wind of it, we're going to bring it to the attention of the state attorney's office, and we're going to hope that his bond is withdrawn and he's taken back into custody for the duration of the matter.
Is that a real concern of yours, that there would be intimidation or witness tampering because what you may perceive is that what occurred the last time we were here?
Well, it's not that I perceive that that's what happened the last time. I know for a fact that that's what happened the last time. There's no question about it. There was rampant witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, paying witnesses, destroying evidence, tampering with evidence. The list goes on and on. That is a significant concern that I have in connection with this case, that my clients have in connection with the case, and we're going to do everything in our power to guard against it, to make sure that 2019 is not a repeat of 2008, and the trial on these very serious charges is not rigged. There may be obstruction of justice charges ultimately brought against Mr. Kelly or certain of his enablers, handlers, managers, attorneys, and the like. He was not able to accomplish this on his own. He had a lot of people that assisted him, and they did so for one reason, and it's a disgusting reason. It was all done in the interest of money.
Lawyer Michael Avenatti was caught on camera name-dropping his two most famous adversaries, President Trump and singer R. Kelly, while trying to squeeze more than $20 million from Nike in an extortion scheme, according to court papers filed Monday. Two Nike attorneys who were secretly working with the feds used hidden video gear to record Avenatti during a Thursday meeting at which he allegedly demanded a $12 million retainer fee to stay silent about claims the sneaker giant make illegal payments to high school athletes, court papers say. Avenatti also allegedly said that he and an alleged co-conspirator, identified by the Wall Street Journal as celebrity lawyer Mark Garrigus, would need as much as $25 million in billings to conduct a purported internal investigation for Nike. Avenatti allegedly told the Nike lawyers that he would hold a news conference if his demands weren't met, adding that, as soon as this becomes public, I am going to receive calls from all over the country from parents and coaches and friends and all kinds of people. Avenatti allegedly said that 90% of that is going to be Bulls tea because it's always Bulls tea 90% of the time. Always, whether it's R. Kelly or Trump. The list goes on, but 10% of it is actually going to be true. And then what's going to happen is this is going to snowball. Avenatti also predicted that the avalanche of information would lead to negative media coverage of Nike, and the company will not die, but they are going to incur cut after cut after cut, and that's what's going to happen as soon as this thing becomes public. Avenatti turned himself into a household name through his representation of porn star Stormy Daniels over her claims of an affair with Trump, and last year used that celebrity to flirt with the possibility of running for president as Democrat. More recently, he's represented several clients tied to the sex abuse allegations case against Kelly, and last month he gave prosecutors in Chicago a newly uncovered videotape that he said shows the R&B singer having sex.
Today, we announce criminal extortion charges against Michael Avenatti. The charges are based on Avenatti's scheme to extract more than $20 million in payments from a public company by threatening to use his ability to garner publicity to inflict financial and reputational harm on the company. Avenatti's conduct had nothing to do with zealous advocacy for a client or any other kind of legitimate legal work. Instead, Avenatti used illegal and extortionate threats for the purpose of obtaining millions of dollars in payments for himself. Avenatti repeatedly pressured the company to agree to pay or risk having Avenatti hold a press conference that he claimed would dramatically drive down the stock price of the company and its market value. As Avenatti threatened in one recorded meeting, if the company did not meet his demands, the company might die, but if not, it was, quote, going to be inflicted with cut after cut after cut after cut. Avenatti threatened to hold a press conference at which he would make these allegations public if the company did not agree to his financial demands. Avenatti promised to forego the press conference and allow the company to avoid financial harm if the company agreed to pay his client $1.5 million and for Avenatti himself.
Daniel's former attorney, Michael Avenatti, a deadbeat dad. His ex-wife, Lisa Story, thinks so, and she is breaking her silence amid their bitter divorce battle. Lisa claims that her estranged husband owes more than $2 million in spousal and child support for their 4-year-old son. We're going to turn now to Chris Spargo. He's back in our New York newsroom, and he has this exclusive. So, Chris, why is Lisa speaking out against her ex now?
Frustration, Jesse. Lisa told Daily Mail TV that Michael is a fraud and a liar who only cares about himself. She also says that he has refused to pay the over $2 million she claims he owes in spousal and child support. Lisa said that she's growing tired of her husband's photo ops with R. Kelly victims or down on the southern border with migrant families, explaining to see him standing next to young victims of abuse and representing children at the border, championing their cause, makes me sick when he doesn't care about his own child. It's callous. What kind of person does that? Lisa claims that she is now raising the couple's 4-year-old son alone. The two live in a small apartment, she said, while also claiming Michael has not seen his son since January.
All right, these could be damaging allegations, Chris. Has Michael Avenatti responded at all to Lisa's claims?
He certainly did, Jesse, expressing his outrage at the claims being made by his ex. Michael also says that he owes no child support and took great offense with Lisa portraying him as a deadbeat dad. Michael tells Daily Mail TV, all because a disgruntled ex-wife claims something in a court record does not make it true. He went on to claim Lisa, unfortunately, has been suffering from prescription drug addiction and alcoholism for years, since at least 2014. For her sake and that of our son, I pray she gets the help she needs.
Wow, all right. Well, it certainly sounds like neither side is backing down, but hopefully for their son, they can come to some sort of amicable resolution soon. Chris Fargo in New York, thank you.
He stood up and he said, "You mother ungrateful."
25-year-old Estonian-born actress Morelli Minuti is recalling what she claims her ex-boyfriend, famed Stormy Daniels attorney Michael Avenatti, screamed at her one terrifying night last November. The relationship started out much differently when Minuti met the brash 48-year-old attorney in October of 2017. She says they had an instant connection and she moved into his $22,000 a month apartment shortly after meeting. But the actress, who appeared in Ocean's 8, says it didn't take long for Avenatti to begin showing his true colors.
Controlling personality, very aggressive, impulsive, short temper.
Minuti claims Avenatti's short temper flared that November night when they argued over, of all things, gas money.
That night I got home, I took a shower, got into bed, Michael got home an hour later, and he asked how my day was. I said, my day was good, babe, but I really don't want to be in a position anymore where I have to ask gas money from somewhere.
And that's when, according to Minuti, Avenatti flew into a rage.
He started yelling at me, calling me all kinds of things. A disgrace. I grabbed my phone, I started texting to my girlfriend. He just aggressively grabbed it out of my hand. He took it away from me and he said it's his phone, as well as it's his apartment, so I should get the out of his place. He actually started grabbing me out of the bed. He dragged me all the way out of the apartment and left me in a public hallway in my panties and a t-shirt.
Minuti says the violence left her bruised and broken.
My hands were scratched. I had carpet burns on my side. I was just very disturbed.
After being dragged out into the hallway, Minuti says she tried to get help from a neighbor, but Avenatti dragged her back into his apartment.
I said, please don't come closer to me. Please give me my phone, and I'll just go, and it's all good. He changed his behavior instantly to, hey, baby, come here. We're so much better than this. I was just scared because I've seen both of those Michaels, but I had no idea he could switch from one to another like that quickly.
Minuti managed to get out of the apartment and eventually called the police. She also got a restraining order against Avenatti, who was arrested but never charged with a crime.
I'm really confused how he was not charged whatsoever. I'm not saying that I had a black eye and I was almost killed, but does that make it okay?
Avenatti has since been accused of embezzling client cash and, according to court documents in the case, funneling some of it to Minuti. She emphatically denies the claim, and we reached out to Michael Avenatti for comment, and he said in part, there is a reason why it was cleared of all wrongdoing by 3 separate investigations. Morelli Minuti's attorney Michael Bachner hit back, claiming the city's attorney's office, quote, didn't prosecute because they had concerns about whether they could secure a conviction, and they reserve the right to bring those charges if they wanted to.
Former lawyer for Stormy Daniels, Michael Avenatti, was arrested yesterday, charged in an alleged extortion scheme to shake down Nike for $20 million. Now, this is on the heels of some fraud and embezzlement charges that were filed against him in Los Angeles on Friday. Now, he says he's going to be fully exonerated when the truth comes out. You know, what was your first reaction?
My first reaction is rather sadness, to say the truth, because here was a guy that brought Stormy Daniels to us, which informed us that Trump had paid hush money to keep her quiet about what he did with her while he was married to Melania and she was having a baby. And so it was good. I liked it. It was like, oh, good. We have somebody here who's going to tell some of the truth about this criminal that we have running the country. Right. So I'm sad that this is all happening now because I know that Trump would use it against him to glorify himself and to make himself look better. So I don't like it. I don't like it.
I think it's sad what he did. The moment I first saw him on television,
that's sad too. There's a lot of sadness
I thought he
to go
was,
around.
in my opinion, he came across to me as a sleazy con artist, and I felt bad for Stormy Daniels because I thought she had an incredibly important story to tell, and I thought in that moment, this is not the right person representing you. He will take advantage of you, take advantage of the media and the American people, and that's exactly what we're seeing happen. This is all alleged.
Yeah.
But she ended up firing him, and I think it's a lesson to all of us of, like, go with your instincts on things, and I think the American people are frustrated. Like, we saw so much of this guy everywhere. And why? Yeah. I mean,
I'll tell you why. Because he was able to take on Trump on the same level of, you know, what's the word, hostility that Trump puts out.
Is that a good enough reason to give him?
It was one of the
time?
reasons.
I mean, I wanted to know more of the facts, you know, so I actually pulled the litigation, and I think he's certainly in trouble. He has more trouble in California than he has in New York. This is the California indictment. Yeah. And this is the New York indictment. And also, right? So, but I haven't had the chance to finish reading the California one, but I read the New York one, and I was disgusted because as an attorney, you know, you take an oath, and you want to make sure that you do the best by your client. And certainly trying to extort Nike and also trying to, you know, you steal money from your clients, allegedly, is
two separate cases.
Two separate cases. The stealing money is New York, and trying to extort Nike is,
what they say is two different stories there, right?
Well, they are two different.
Yeah.
You know, one to me felt like lawyer stuff.
You mean
like what lawyers?
extorting
Yeah,
Nike?
what lawyers do.
If it's true, he crossed the line.
He may have
in New
crossed the
York.
line, but you know, many lawyers do. They say, you know, if you don't settle with us, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to come after your family. This is what lawyers do. So that didn't freak me out. California is really where he has the problem.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is a problem. There was a point in time I can remember being in an airport, and he was on MSNBC and CNN at the same time, which is almost unprecedented that someone would have that much media attention. He came on this show. I've talked about this on air before. I thought he was a con artist. I thought he was sleazy. There's actually a gif of me like dry heaving at something he said that's going around the internet right now that I did on air that's being sent around. This is what I didn't like about him. I also agree that Stormy Daniels had a very important story to tell. I liked her when she came on the show, and I was the biggest skeptic. Story. Yes, she does. And I thought that I didn't understand why he was making so much money and she was forced to continue stripping at lower level, low end strip clubs. Tour.
She liked it though.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, but I think I'm the only one at the table that has interviewed exotic dancers for a book. I believe that that's true. They work very hard.
How about I was an exotic dancer.
Well, because these women
work very hard
who work and take care of their kids.
Very hard, and a lot of men take advantage of them.
Yeah.
And I believe that he took advantage of her. And by the way, she agrees. She says, knowing what I know now about Michael Avenatti, I'm saddened but not shocked by news reports that he's been criminally charged today. I made the decision more than a month ago to terminate his services after discovering that he dealt with me extremely dishonestly, and there will be more announcements to come. So my instincts on Michael Avenatti ended up being the same with where Stormy Daniels.
Well, here's the thing. He came, and the reason he was on the show is because he brought Stormy. Let's not forget that.
That's true.
That's the reason he was here. He wasn't here as a lawyer for America. He wasn't here. He was representing someone that we wanted to hear from.
Yeah.
So I just want everybody to remember the roots of things.
That's why he was on CNN and MSNBC.
You know, but it's important that we remember.
He's not welcome back?
Well, I think he might be in jail.
Oh, well, fair enough. Well, and we have a legal note. Avenatti posted a statement on Twitter this morning writing, I want to thank all of my supporters for your kind words and support today. It means a lot to me. I'm anxious for people to see what really happened. We never attempted to extort Nike, and when the evidence is disclosed, the public will learn the truth about Nike's crime and cover up. And I just want to reiterate, Stormy's story is still important. The fact that this president allegedly paid a hush payment to hide his affair with a porn star from the American people is still important.
Yeah.
get rich out these war crimes. It's a conspiracy. Who's the terrorist? The U.S. government must be the terrorist.